guys, so today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about ordering for Alibaba. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experiences with ordering some of my play equipment with them. So for us, we ordered a lot of soft play equipment for them, not really the big like towering soft play structures with like the pipes and everything like that, but more of like the stuff like this, like the honeycomb, a tugboat, and then some stuff for Imagine Play Mobile from them. So it was altogether like 5 different sets. When you're working with Alibaba, one of the most important things that you should know is that you have to deal with all your transactions, all your messaging through Alibaba, because they have an assurance program in case for some reason you get a scammer or something like that. You know, it's just kind of like eBay where, you know, you want to keep all your transactions, all your notes, all your messaging through eBay. So that way, if something were to happen to your order, they have a way of looking through the transactions and trying to figure out a resolution for you. So you want to make sure that you keep all your notes, all your messaging, all your transactions on Alibaba. Okay. When I was looking for a manufacturer, I sent about 10 different quotes to different companies, just trying to get pricing of the things I wanted, and then also trying to get an idea of what shipping would be. So of course, a lot of them were on the higher end, some of them in the lower end, a lot of them were kind of in the middle. But one of the biggest concerns I had was regarding shipping. I really wanted somebody that could basically, you know, ship to my door. And a lot of those quotes were really kind of all over the map. You know, some of them were really expensive, some of them were in the really low. And I was kind of scared too, because they would never disclose like who they were shipping with. And I was kind of scared, like, you know, if it was somebody that I'm paying a little bit lower to ship just because it was within my budget, maybe I actually wouldn't get the item. So I'll talk to you a little bit later about what happened and what I decided to go with shipping. But in the end, I finally narrowed it down to like 2 manufacturers, and it was mostly based on communication, their timely response to my emails, and then also just the feeling I got regarding, you know, if they were helpful as far as like my order, my concerns were. So I ended up going with one person that I felt like, you know, my communication with them was really great, and that they had expertise and knew what they were doing. I also read they had a really good amount of reviews on Alibaba. That was like one of the important things to me too, because I wanted to make sure that they have done business through there before. So when I was ready to order, I did an order form on Alibaba with all my 5 sets. And I did that for a reason. I didn't want to take any of my transaction offline. That was really important to me. And so I submitted an order form through them. And in the order form, you can say that you want to put down only the 40% or 30% or whatever the transaction is. And then they would get the rest during the time it was ready to ship. So that's really important as well, because I didn't want to obviously give them all the money up front, and I like that Alibaba allows you to do that you were able to put down a down payment, and then once the item was ready, you would be able to pay the rest of it. And my manufacturer really was great at communicating with me and sending me pictures of the final results and things like that, so I was really happy with that, okay? So in the end, I ended up going with FedEx for shipping, just because they were more reputable in my country. So I got a quote from my manufacturer for shipping, and they got a quote for somebody to get the items to Ningbo, which is the port they ship out of, and then from Ningbo to my port here, the closest port to me, because they ship by sea. And then once they got that, then somebody that would ship all the way to my door. Well, anyway, I just didn't know who they were shipping with. It just didn't seem really reliable to me. So I went to the port's website, the port that was closest to me, and the port's website actually had a list of all the shippers that usually do business with them, and one of them was FedEx, and I got a quote from FedEx. The FedEx was really reasonable, within a really good price range, and I was just like, you know what, why not do the smart thing and just deal with a company that I know has a good reputation in our country, so that way I know that I will get the product. So all together, I think it took them about 3 weeks to manufacture everything in China. And then it took them another 3 to 4 weeks to ship the product all the way to me. So another important thing that you probably need to know is when they will ask you, how do you want it shipped? Do you want them to ship it in a 20-foot container, which means you rent out the whole container, or do you want to ship it with other products? But I didn't want that risk, because if for some reason, if you share a container with some other products, like you could be sharing it with like many other products because you don't fill the whole container, that product that might not be yours might get flagged at customs, and they could hold up your shipment for like weeks or months until that's resolved. So I ended up renting the whole 20-foot container, because even though I only filled like 3/4 of the container, just because I didn't want the hassle of dealing with that at customs. The other thing you want to really make sure you pay attention to is what they classify your products as, because certain products have a tax when they come into the port, and the customs will tax you for it. So you want to make sure that you work with your manufacturer to make sure they classify your product correctly, so you're not being taxed or being overtaxed, I guess, when you get your stuff in here. But if you have to, you have to. But just so you know that up front, you're not going to go in blind. That's, important that you know that. Once I got notice that it was going to be shipped to me, FedEx delivered it straight to my door. And once we opened the container up, it was like all the products were all wrapped really, really nicely in plastic and in foam, so they weren't damaged during shipping. As far as the quality is concerned, a few different things. We have issues with some of our equipment. Nothing that I guess affects the value of them or the fact that kids can still play on them. Just a few minor details. For instance, the honeycomb, putting it together and installing it, they did not screw all the screw holes correctly, so they were not aligned correctly. So we had to re-screw a lot of the holes to make sure the screws fit in correctly. A lot of the hardware as well, they didn't include certain hardware that we think that should have been included with it. The reason for that is I feel like some of the play equipment is not play tested. So they are a design idea, but not necessarily kids have played in them before, so they don't think about these things until we actually receive them. For instance, our fire truck, there's this area on the fire truck where it holds the fire truck lights. It's just a bar that goes across, that sits on top of the windshield area, and it doesn't have any screws or bolts to kind of tighten and hold it in place. It's just 2 bolts that go straight down. In theory, you would think, yeah, it should work, but what happens is the kids kept climbing over it, and because they were climbing over it, it started becoming more of like a teeter-totter like this. And then and then eventually, because the hole just got so wide, the kids would teeter-totter and just fall off. So it just became a safety hazard, and we just had to take it away. So just a few things about those type of things you have to think about as far as it not being play tested, and you might have to, some of these problems might arise once you get it in your facility and kids are actually playing with them. Luckily, my manufacturer did email me and ask me if everything was okay. I messaged her back and I told her all the problems that I had with it. I don't know what they're going to be doing with that information, but at least then they know for maybe the next time. The other problem we do have is that just because we're getting this stuff overseas, it's a lot harder to find solutions to a problem for them because they're so far away. It's not like we can just come here tomorrow and fix some of my problems. For instance, the honeycomb right there, 2 of its windows has already punctured holes in it because kids bring toys in there and they like to scrape it against the window. Well, the bottom window went first, and that was fine because it was the bottom one, and so I didn't feel like that was it was kind of a quick fix. We just took the window out. But now the top one has a puncture in it. And my only concern about that is that it's just the top one. I don't want kids climbing out of it. I feel like it's a safety risk. So I have to contact them to try to get a new window, and it's just not as easy as you would think it is because it takes a lot of time for them to ship it. They don't really want to ship it because they're from China, kind of thing. So if you can't get your manufacturer to help with those things, then you have to kind of find other means of trying to fix those solutions. We're still trying to find a solution for that fire truck. Well, we don't know if we ever will. So that's one of the problems that we have with that, okay? The other thing you probably want to know is about cost. So I think it's different for everybody regarding what kind of play equipment you want. The cost itself for the equipment is not expensive, I don't feel like. The shipping is what's gonna kill you. We actually spent basically probably the same amount on shipping that we actually spent for the equipment. So if I could find a manufacturer that was in the US, I would have did it because I think I would have paid the same amount. So that's my experience with Alibaba. If you have any questions, you're welcome to message me. Subscribe to this channel to keep up more tips about what it's like to own a PlaySpace. Talk to you next time. Bye.